Niceness or being too nice is not a personality trait. It's what many women use to manage difficult situations that are discomforting. It's basically a survival strategy that, in my opinion, has outlived its usefulness, right? So if you've been calling it your character, or if you've ever said, I just can't help it, that's who I am, stay right here. Because what I'm about to tell you changes everything about how you understand yourself. At some point, often often before we had the words or the language to articulate what was happening, we learned something. We learned that being available and being agreeable, easy to be around, was what would give us the things that we needed or we felt we needed. You know, it would give us approval, it would give us love, it would allow the environment that we're in to remain peaceful, safe, right? And this is hardly ever a conscious decision. So if you are thinking, I don't do this, it's your nervous system that has observed that pattern. So it's not you saying, I'm going to be agreeable, I'm going to be nice, I'm going to allow things that I don't want to happen just because. No, it's your nervous system that has been trained, that has developed a pattern from that early programming. The pattern is the things that you do and the rewards that the things that you do bring, right? So what it could look like is when I give this, I get what I want. When I give people what they need, things go better for me. When I disappoint them, on the other hand, things become more difficult, more complicated. I don't feel as safe. And so, you know what that means? That essentially means that you're training it. And what do things that a train do? Or when you train something, it becomes, it acts accordingly. That's the point I'm trying to make, right? So it's important for me to say that while this is definitely not a flaw in you, it's a conditioning. And conditions will continue until you disrupt them, until you dismantle them, until you change things up, right? So until they're stopped, it will continue to happen. I just want to say that. I recognize that it's not a flaw, but it will continue unless you do something about it. And there's a significant difference that I want to point out, or that I wanted to point out. So this could look like you taking on, this whole scenario could look like you taking on extra projects at work, doing things that are outside of your scope of work, or that are even not what you should be, that you should not be doing in addition to what you already have on your plate. Because you're doing it because you don't want to be labeled as being difficult, or for me it was not being a team player, because God forbid they'd even think I was incompetent, right? And so you say yes even when you don't want to, when you shouldn't have to, when this is outside of anything that you should be doing. And even maybe even in some instances when there are people who should be doing it, people who have been paid to do this, I'll even venture to say, someone calls and you pick up the phone. That's another situation. You didn't want to, but you did. Or you're in a conversation and you know what you want to say, but you don't say it. Or you actually don't want to be in that conversation, but you don't leave, you stay in it, Having an opinion and not expressing it is also another example, a common one. Many of us do that. Sometimes we say, oh, we justify it, but that's really what is at the root of it, Even something as simple as being asked how you are, and then you say you're fine, and you're not, if what I used to do was I would say okay, because in my mind I would think that I would say that why I would think that they're just asking to be polite. So I'm just going to give a polite response. But then later, as I started to embody this work, I realized to myself that why am I even doing this? If you do not truly, sincerely, genuinely want to know how I am, don't ask me, because you're going to get how I am. Obviously, I'm not going to have a verbal diarrhea and just spill out everything if there's a lot going on, but you will at least get an honest response where I say, at this time I'm feeling a little whatever. So long and short of it, if you don't want to know how I am or how many of us who are operating in authenticity, don't ask us because we're going to tell you. And it's not always going to be, I'm fine. All right. So I digress a little bit. But that's what it looks like too. Someone asks you to do something, every part of you says no, but you say yes, or you just hear the yes coming out of your mouth anyway. And then what happens after the situations is you go back home and you're just exhausted and even feeling burnt out in some instances. And it really is not because you're tired physically, it's because of the disconnect in the way you've shown up, in allowing things that you didn't want to happen, in saying things that you didn't mean or weren't true to you. you know it's really as a result of you not being in integrity with yourself. That's not who you are. You're not a person who at the core just does things to keep the peace. But because you're doing it, that disconnect causes us to feel exhausted, causes us to use terms like burnout, overwhelm, even, which I believe is a choice. But it's just because of the learning that has allowed what we've learned. That's why we're doing that. You know. So I do have great news for you. Because it was learned, because it's a condition, it can be unlearned, right? And the conditioning can be broken. That is the great news that I have for you. You can unlearn it. It's not permanent. It's not in your DNA. It's not in your genetic makeup. It's a learned response, and learned responses can be unlearned. And the body can truly, truly learn a new one. I'm not just saying this to be optimistic or to be inspirational. It's science, and that's why I love neuroscience, because it shows us what's really happening. The nervous system is plastic, and that means that it can be molded, it can be changed based on repeated new experiences that you're going to have. Be warned though that the goal here is not to become a different person, or because there's nothing wrong with you. We're just disrupting and changing up the patterns that do not serve you. Our collective goal is for you to practice a different response often enough and get so good at it that it becomes your nervous system's go-to. It's replacing what it used to run with this new way of operating or showing up, right? And I call that the pause. That's what the pause is all about. It's a practiced interruption. It's similar to a new reflex that you'll build over time, deliberately and intentionally, because you want to change that old patterning, that old rewiring of just saying yes when you truly, genuinely do not want to say yes. So as I wrap up here, I want to leave you with some questions for you to think about, for you to ponder. One of the questions is, what came up for you as you were listening? Another question is, where in your life is this showing up the most? Two questions. What came up for you? Don't overthink it. Jot it, note it, as I share the examples in particular of where this is coming up. And where is this showing up the most in your life? And if you're so bold, so inclined, you can put it in the comments. I'll come back and I'll respond to it. Or you can just reflect, answer it yourself, and just sit on it, right? Make a mental note of what came up for you as you ask yourself these questions. I created a free training that walks you through the body level mechanism that's behind this. That's our neuroscience. What fires in your body when someone asks you to do something or asks something of you, and what the sequence of that looks like from when they're asked to when you respond. It also shows you how to interrupt that yes sequence, which I'm calling the yes pause. The video is called What's Happening in Your Body Before the Yes, and the link is in the description. It's a total game changer. I used it myself. I still use it because this people pleasing yes business is like it stays with you to some degree forever. So you just have to consciously, keep reinforcing it. And I use it with my clients as well. When I'm in the thick of things, I can easily find myself defaulting to that. So it's still something that I go to regularly. All right. So I'll see you in the next video. Take care.